Anxiety, a word that has become part of our everyday language. Some feel at the moment they wake up without a clear reason. Others, when facing bills, family conflicts, or simply when thinking about the future. Anxiety has become a silent and sometimes very loud companion for millions of people. But what does spirituality have to do with it? And what do the spirits say about anxiety? Today, I want to share with you a real story. Not an extraordinary one, but a simple story, one that might feel familiar. The story of Laura. Laura was 36 years old. She worked as an accountant in a mid-sized firm, lived alone in a small apartment, and from the outside, it seemed like she had everything under control. But inside, it was a different picture. She woke up every morning with a racing heart and an unexplainable sense of dread. She struggled to breathe deeply, felt pressure in her chest, had chaotic thoughts, and a fear that had no clear source. And the worst part? Nothing seemed to bring real comfort. She went to doctors, took medication, attended therapy. It helped, yes, but it didn't solve the problem. One evening, almost by coincidence, Laura was invited by a friend to a spiritist talk. She had never been to a spiritist center before, though she had always been curious. That night, the topic was precisely about anxiety and spiritual life. The speaker's words were so calm and clear that Laura felt as though he were speaking directly to her. Many symptoms of anxiety, the speaker said, don't come just from the body or the mind, but from the spirit. We arrive in this world carrying wounds from the past, with spiritual commitments, with missions awaiting us. When we disconnect from our spiritual essence, the soul begins to scream. And that scream is often what we feel as anxiety. Laura cried quietly during the lecture. For the first time, she felt her suffering had a deeper meaning. That wasn't a failure on her part, or something to hide. It was a call, a soul's alarm asking for attention, love, and most of all, reconnection. That night was the beginning of a journey. Laura didn't get rid of anxiety overnight, but she began to understand it, to look at it not as an enemy, but as a messenger. She started attending weekly meetings, reading the gospel according to Spiritism, praying before bed. And little by little, things began to shift. Not so much externally, but internally. Why am I telling you this? Because Laura's story is the story of many. Maybe it's yours. Maybe, without realizing it, you've been searching for an answer that isn't found in a prescription or a magic solution. Maybe it's time to look toward the spirit, to ask yourself, what part of me is crying out for attention through this anxiety? In the Spirit's book, Kardec asks, what is the most effective practical means for improving oneself in this life and resisting the pull of evil? And the Spirit's reply, a wise man of antiquity told you, know thyself. What if anxiety is precisely that opportunity? A call to know ourselves, to come into contact with what lies beyond the visible, the tangible. Let's take a breath together. Close your eyes for a moment and ask your soul, what are you trying to tell me with this trembling in my chest? What are you needing that I haven't given you? This is the first step, the step of listening, because every spiritual journey begins here, with the decision to stop running from the pain and instead to embrace it with a different perspective. To truly understand anxiety from Spiritist perspective, we must begin with the foundational idea that we are not merely physical beings. We are eternal spirits temporarily housed in a physical body. This concept, though simple, shifts everything. Spiritism teaches that life does not begin at birth nor end at death. Instead, each of us is on a long journey of spiritual evolution, undergoing multiple incarnations, each designed to help us learn, grow, and repair past mistakes. In that context, emotional states such as anxiety often stem not only from present-day pressures, but also from spiritual imprints, experiences, fears, and unresolved pains brought from other lives. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec presents a powerful insight. True happiness is not of this world. This means that when we try to anchor our peace only in material things, success, control, appearance, validation, we inevitably suffer because the soul seeks something deeper, more lasting. And when that inner need is ignored or misunderstood, anxiety arises. According to the Spiritist view, anxiety can also emerge when there's a misalignment between the soul's purpose and the life one is currently living. Think about it. How many people are living routines that suppress their true calling? How many are trapped in toxic relationships, in work that drains them, in patterns that betray their conscience? The soul knows. Even if the conscious mind doesn't understand, the spirit within us starts to send signs: restlessness, discomfort, and sometimes intense anxiety. Moreover, Spiritism acknowledges the influence of spiritual companions, both benevolent and suffering spirits, in our daily lives. Kardec, in the Medium's book, explains that disincarnate spirits can influence our thoughts and emotions, especially when we are spiritually vulnerable. This is not to create fear, but awareness. When someone is constantly anxious, fearful, or filled with negative thoughts, it's important to consider not only psychological and physical causes, but also spiritual ones. Suffering spirits may find resonance in our emotional state, amplifying our fears and unrest, often unconsciously. However, Spiritism doesn't leave us with just diagnosis. It offers tools for healing. The first of these is inner transformation. As Divaldo Franco beautifully says, the Spiritist doctrine is not about punishing, but about enlightening. It invites us to look inward with honesty and compassion. If anxiety is speaking, what truth is it pointing to? What areas of your life need change, forgiveness, or courage? Prayer is another essential tool. Not mechanical prayer, but heartfelt, sincere communication with the divine. When we speak to God, to our guardian spirit, we begin to re-establish a connection that centers us. It doesn't always remove the problem, but it gives us strength, calm, and clarity to face it. Then, there's the power of good actions. Spiritism teaches that charity, in thought, word, and deed, elevates our vibration and surrounds us with light. When we step out of ourselves to help others, we often find our own burdens lighter. This is not about escaping from our struggles, but transforming them through love in action. Finally, the practice of the gospel at home, Evangelho no lar, is a deeply healing habit. By setting aside one day a week to read and reflect on the gospel, pray, and harmonize the home, we create a sacred space. This weekly spiritual hygiene not only brings peace to our environment, but invites protective spirits to be with us, creating a shield against negative influences and bringing relief to the soul. The Spiritist approach to anxiety is not to condemn, but to enlighten. It sees suffering as a teacher, not a punishment. Anxiety, in this view, is not a weakness, it's a message, a call for alignment, for depth, for spiritual reconnection. And yes, it takes time. No transformation is immediate, but every small step matters. Each prayer whispered in the darkness, each act of kindness, each moment of courage in facing our truths, all of it contributes to healing. As Chico Xavier once said, everything passes, the good things for us to be grateful, and the bad things for us to learn. Anxiety, too, will pass, but it can leave behind a wiser, more awakened soul. To deepen our understanding of anxiety through the lens of Spiritism, we turn to the teachings of Jesus as illuminated in the Gospel. One of the most profound and tender passages that speaks directly to the anxious heart is found in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them." Matthew 6 verses 25 to 26. These words are not merely poetic. They are an invitation to trust, a deep spiritual trust that transcends material concerns. But how do we apply this in a world full of deadlines, bills, illness, and uncertainty? Is it even realistic? The answer, from a Spiritist perspective, is yes. Not by ignoring life's responsibilities, but by changing how we relate to them. When Jesus spoke of not worrying, He wasn't asking us to be passive or negligent. He was guiding us toward a higher state of consciousness, where we acknowledge that we are not alone and that there's a divine plan unfolding in our lives. This is echoed in the Spiritist interpretation of suffering. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, there's a chapter titled Blessed Are the Afflicted, which opens with a powerful insight. Suffering is a blessing when accepted with resignation and trust. Now, this doesn't mean we should resign ourselves to pain without action. It means we embrace the struggle with faith, knowing it serves a purpose in our spiritual growth. Anxiety, when seen through this lens, becomes a sacred challenge, not a punishment, but a sign that something within us is awakening, stretching, longing for more than just the temporary comforts of this world. It asks, are we living in harmony with our conscience? Are we aligned with our spiritual mission? Are we loving and forgiving enough, including toward ourselves? In Luke 21, verse 19, Jesus offers another key. By your perseverance, you will save your souls. In times of anxiety, this perseverance is not just about enduring. It's about enduring with meaning. Holding on to faith when everything feels uncertain. Choosing love over fear, even when fear screams louder. Trusting in divine wisdom, even when we don't understand the path. One common cause of anxiety is the need for control. We want to know what will happen, when and how. But Spiritism teaches that much of life is beyond our control. And that's where trust comes in. We do our part, we act with conscience, but we also surrender to the divine flow. We trust that even difficulties are part of our evolution. As Spiritist mentor Emmanuel once said through Chico Xavier, do not be discouraged. God does not fail. This brief phrase holds immense power. In our darkest hours, in those moments when the chest tightens and tears fall without reason, we can repeat it like a prayer. God does not fail, not in his timing, not in his mercy, not in his love for each of us. Let us also reflect on the idea of divine timing. Sometimes we feel anxious because we believe we're late in life, late in achievements, late in healing. But the gospel reminds us that everything has its hour. In the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. If you're struggling with anxiety today, perhaps the gospel is inviting you to slow down, to breathe, to realign not with what the world expects, but with what your soul truly needs. And often, what it needs is not perfection, but presence. Not answers, but faith. We are all walking this journey of becoming. And each anxious heartbeat is a reminder that the soul is alive and seeking something deeper. In those moments of inner storm, go back to the words of Jesus. Feel their peace. Feel their wisdom. Let them guide you like a lighthouse in the fog. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you, he said. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 14, verse 27. His peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of divine assurance. It is the calm that says, you are seen, you are guided, and you are deeply loved. Let me pause here and ask you, not just as someone watching a video, but as a soul walking through this world with your own wounds, your own questions, your own silent battles. What is your anxiety trying to teach you? I'm not asking what's causing it. You may already know that. Maybe it's work, family tension, health concerns, or a mix of all. But beneath the surface, what deeper message is there? Close your eyes for a moment. Let your mind settle. Take a deep breath. Go beyond the fear, beyond the noise. What is your soul longing for? What have you forgotten about yourself? Sometimes our anxiety is a call to slow down. Other times it's a cry for change in how we think, how we live, how we love. It might be pointing to a dream you've abandoned or to a truth you've been avoiding. It might be urging you to forgive, to let go, or to finally ask for help. In Spiritism, we are reminded that everything in life has a cause, especially our emotions. The law of cause and effect doesn't only apply to physical events, but also to our inner world. Emotions don't just appear. They emerge from within us, shaped by our thoughts, beliefs, and even experiences from previous incarnations. So when anxiety comes, instead of fearing it, what if we listen to it? What if instead of fighting it, we embraced it like a teacher? Now, I want to ask you something even more personal. When was the last time you sat in silence and truly listened to yourself? Not the voice of your fears, not the opinions of others, not the demands of society, but that quiet, steady voice deep inside, the one that knows what really matters. Many of us are afraid of that silence. We keep ourselves busy, distracted, always moving, but healing often begins in the stillness. That's where we meet ourselves. That's where we can hear the whispers of our spirit, and perhaps the gentle guidance of those who walk beside us from the invisible world. Have you ever thought that you might not be alone in your anxiety? That your guardian spirit, your spiritual mentors, are closer than you realize, offering comfort, inspiration, strength? The Spiritist doctrine assures us that each soul is accompanied by a spiritual guide, a being who loves us deeply and helps us stay on the path of growth. But their influence depends on our openness. Are we making space for that connection? Spiritual understanding brings insight, but to truly experience transformation, we must bring those insights into action. So let's talk now about how we can live Spiritism in our daily lives, especially when anxiety knocks at the door. First, let's start with the foundation, daily spiritual hygiene. Just as we brush our teeth and shower, we must care for our spiritual well-being. Begin your mornings with a short prayer, not a recitation, but a heartfelt connection with God, your guardian spirit, and your inner self. Thank them for another day. Ask for guidance, strength, and clarity. This simple act sets the tone for everything that follows. In the evening, before sleep, take 5 minutes to reflect. How did you feel today? What thoughts dominated your mind? Were there moments of anxiety? Instead of judging yourself, observe with kindness. Ask yourself, what did I learn from today's emotions? And then offer everything, your fears, your doubts, your gratitude, to the divine in prayer. Another powerful habit is the gospel at home, or Evangel no lar. Once a week, gather your family, or sit alone if that's your reality, and read a passage from the gospel according to Spiritism. Reflect together, pray together. This weekly practice creates an atmosphere of peace and invites protective spirits into your home. Over time, you'll feel a difference, a more balanced environment, more harmonious relationships, and a deeper sense of spiritual protection. But what about in the heat of the moment? When anxiety rises suddenly, when your chest tightens and your thoughts start to spiral. Spiritism offers very grounded, practical tools for these times. First, breathe and connect. When anxiety hits, bring yourself back to the present. Breathe slowly, deeply. Place your hand on your heart and say, out loud if you can, I am a spirit. I am not alone. This feeling will pass. These words anchor you. They remind you that you are more than this moment of fear. Second, search someone else. It may sound counterintuitive, but when we shift our focus outward, we change our energy. Call someone who might be lonely. Send a message of love. Do a small act of kindness, even if it's just listening to a stranger. Spiritism teaches that when we serve, we elevate our vibration. And in that higher state, anxiety often dissolves. Third, watch your inner dialogue. Are you constantly telling yourself that you're failing, that you're not enough? Change that script. Use affirmations based on spiritual truth. For example, I am an eternal spirit in progress. I trust in God's timing for my life. This anxiety is a teacher, not an enemy. Write these down. Put them where you can see them. Repeat them often. The more you say them, the more they will become part of your internal reality. Fourth, limit what drains your spirit. Too much negative news, toxic conversations, chaotic environments, they weaken our emotional defenses. Choose what you consume. Fill your space with music that uplifts, books that inspire, moments of quiet. Not to escape, but to build inner strength. And finally, develop a personal connection with your guardian spirit. Talk to them like you would talk to a wise, loving friend. Ask them for insight, protection, and support. According to Spiritism, this relationship is real and active. The more we nurture it, the more guidance we receive, sometimes through intuition, through dreams, or even through the right words at the right moment. Also, be mindful of your physical body. Though we are spirits, the body is the instrument through which we express our spiritual evolution. Proper sleep, nutrition, and physical movement can all support emotional balance. There is no shame in caring for your body. It is a sacred vessel, chosen by your spirit for this incarnation. And if your anxiety feels overwhelming, remember, seeking psychological help is not a failure. It is part of your healing path. Spiritism and science are not enemies. They walk together. Use both. Therapy, medicine, and spiritual practice can and should work hand in hand. In the end, anxiety is a reminder. It tells us we are alive, sensitive, longing for something more. Spiritism doesn't promise to eliminate all pain, but it gives us tools, real, loving, wise tools, to walk through that pain with courage, meaning, and deep inner peace. Transformation doesn't happen in one day, but with each small practice, each moment of conscious breathing, each prayer, each act of service, you align more with your soul. And little by little, anxiety begins to lose its grip and your spirit begins to shine more freely. As we come to the end of this reflection, I want to invite you to pause just for a moment and breathe. Inhale slowly, pull that breath gently, and exhale with peace. You are here. You are alive. You are not alone. These simple truths are sacred, even if we forget them in the rush of everyday life. Even if anxiety clouds our view, they remain like stars behind a stormy sky. Anxiety, as we've seen, is not the enemy. It is a voice, a spiritual whisper, a messenger from deep within, urging us to look more closely at how we're living, what we're feeling, and most importantly, who we are becoming. Spiritism offers us a profound truth, that no suffering is meaningless and no emotional storm is without purpose. Behind each trial, there's a lesson. Behind each fear, an invitation. Behind each night of doubt, a dawn of greater understanding. But we must choose to see it. We must choose to stop running from our pain and begin embracing it with spiritual eyes. To say to ourselves, this is hard, yes, but I am growing. I am learning. I am transforming. Let me share with you the words of Chico Xavier. Words that have comforted countless hearts. Though nobody can go back and make a new beginning, anyone can start now and make a new ending. No matter where you are on your journey, whether you've been struggling with anxiety for years or you've just begun to feel its weight, you can start anew. Right now, in this breath, in this moment. Maybe that means seeking therapy or returning to prayer. Maybe it means forgiving someone or forgiving yourself. Maybe it means starting that spiritual practice you've been putting off, or simply deciding to speak more kindly to your own heart. Whatever it is, let it be a step toward light, toward truth, toward peace. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to walk the path, one step at a time, with sincerity and trust. Remember, the spirit world is not distant. Your guardian spirit walks with you, loving you, protecting you, whispering inspiration when you least expect it. Every sincere prayer you offer is heard. Every tear you cry is seen. Every effort you make is valued. The divine does not expect us to be fearless, but he does call us to be faithful. Faith is not about never feeling afraid. It's about holding on to the light, even in the darkest hours. It's about choosing to believe, even when your heart is trembling, that this life has purpose, that your soul is eternal, and that peace is always possible. So now I ask you, can you take this message with you into your life? When the next wave of anxiety comes, and it may, can you stop, breathe, and say, this is not who I am. I am spirit. I am guided. I am growing. Can you remember that your value is not measured by your performance, your productivity, or your appearance, but by the love you give, the truth you seek, and the courage you show in choosing peace over fear? And can you make a commitment today to take one small action toward your inner healing? Just one prayer, one conversation, one kind word to yourself. That's how peace begins. Not in great explosions, but in quiet choices. I hope this message finds a home in your heart. I hope it reminds you that you're never abandoned. And I hope it strengthens you to keep going, even when the path is difficult. From my spirit to yours, I send love, light, and a prayer for your inner serenity. May you rest tonight, knowing that your journey matters. May you wake tomorrow with hope. And may you walk every day with the gentle certainty that peace is not only possible, it is your spiritual inheritance. Your light, your love, your becoming, and the spirit world walks with you always.